Hey, what's up, everybody? And thank you for tuning in to the Water Bear podcast. So, if this is your first time joining us, we are now on season 5. So, thank you for rocking with me for over a year now. So, we're kind of fresh into season 5 still. And please remember that sharing is caring and subscribing is thriving. So, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Drip family if you have not already done so. And you can catch the drip every episode here on every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you're not already done this as well, you can follow me on Instagram at Poetic, and that's P-E-A-U-X-E-T-I-C, or on TikTok at P-E-U-X-E-T. I'm sorry, I'm misspelling my own name. P-E-A-U-X-E-T-I-C with the number 7 at the end. So there's the only difference there for TikTok. And then make sure you go out and follow my special guest for today as well, Calvin Michaels. You can find him on IG and X or Twitter at Give Me a Beat, and on Facebook at Calvin Michaels. So before I bring him out, I'm going to let him do his full introduction, but I'm going to tell you all how I came across Calvin's content. So I was just up late one night and I was looking at YouTube and I saw this video about TLC. And so if y'all have watched this show, you know TLC is one of my all-time favorite groups. And he was doing a comparison of the eras between fan mail and 3D and kind of like what went wrong, what went right. And I really was just like, let me tune in. I didn't have like a certain expectation. I was just like, oh, this is commentary on TLC that I've never seen before, so I'll check it out. And there was a lot of information that I didn't know. I felt like he was very detail oriented, and I was like, oh, subscribe right away. And then I started watching some of his other videos, Tony Braxton, Janet Jackson, and then even some of the recent political videos that he's done. So he wears so many hats, and I do not want to mess up his introduction. So I'm going to go ahead without further ado, bring Calvin on. Hey, what's up, Calvin?
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you? Of course. Thank you for joining.
Well, it's the weekend. Hey, so
yes, that's right. Yes. Okay. So if you don't mind giving the viewers and the listeners a rundown of what you do and kind of all of your talents and all of the hats that you wear.
Okay, well, my name is Calvin Michaels. Professionally, I specialize in youth development, but on the more creative side, I do a little bit of everything. So I have a YouTube channel that covers a bunch of different things, everything from music to politics to just Black everything, current world events and different things like that. And then I also do music and I also do film. And so those are kind of the main things I have going. And I also have a podcast as well.
Wow, that is a lot. And one of your films, if I'm not mistaken, just got picked up, or you just I know there was something big that I saw.
One of your films. So you know the industry doesn't let you talk, but so we've been working on a short film called Pull Over So I Can Hit You, which is based off of my Comedically Hard-Headed podcast. So we've been able to get into a few film festivals, and so I'm just waiting for them to give me the green light to announce which ones, but I'm really excited about that because it was a project we worked on for a lot of 2023. So it's kind of cool to see your work kind of come back full circle and everything comes into fruition. So I'm excited about that. We're just crossing our fingers and hoping that there's additional festivals we get into. And so as soon as they give me the okay, I can't wait to start just sharing hey guys, we're going to be here. Okay. But so thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Of course. I definitely will be on the lookout for that. So that's crazy. So you have, sounds like you're 9 to 5 and then you're doing all these other things outside of that.
Yeah. Helps you to stay sane. Wow.
Yeah. Hey, right. I tell people that all the time. And I imagine maybe you're kind of the same way. The podcasting and stuff that I do, writing and things of that sort, even though I may be tired sometimes while I'm doing it, I always will get a second wind when I'm doing those things because that's really my passion and what I love doing.
Right. Yeah. Same here. You that wave it picks up as soon as you get into your good pocket. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, I definitely want to get back to that. I want to get back to what we have going on the national project side, and then as well as any other person here. But I did find out that you are a Leo. So if you don't mind sharing your birthday with the viewers and listeners.
You said does that include the year? No, I'm just kidding.
It doesn't have to include the year.
I'm just joking. I'm joking. Like, yeah, I'm 23, y'all. Still 23.
Right,
no,
right.
my birthday is August 1st, 88.
Okay.
So, yeah.
August 1st. Okay. So I know you said that you don't have a great deal of knowledge about the zodiac, but I have to ask this question because I'm just curious. I usually ask it to everybody that comes on. So your birthday being in August, and I know Leo kind of spans from, or does span from July to August. Would you say you've encountered a difference between the July and August Leos?
Yes. And because I was so pressed, I went and was doing my research. So I found out what my rising and my moon were. And so,
okay, great. Okay, I would love to know.
So I'm like, okay, I don't think I fit in the traditional Leo bubble because my rising is Scorpio. And I feel like Scorpio and Leo, the Scorpio kind of humbles down the Leo energy. And then my moon is in Aries, which, Aries, they like to fight all day. So I was like, okay, that kind of explains maybe why I have like the YouTube platform and I'm always going off about something. So wow. I think, there are some differences between like July and August Leos. I don't think it's anything bad, but I think for at least my experience, I don't know if I fit or if I check all the boxes, right? And I think that's because my moon in Aries everything kind of numbs everything down. I think as a Leo, I'm a little bit more subtle. So.
Okay. I can see that. And that's, wow, that's really interesting because I always joke and say that Scorpio, in my opinion, is the unofficial fourth fire sign. Because you have Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius as fire signs. And I feel like even though Scorpio is a water sign, in my head, they seem to function more as a fire sign, in my opinion. But that's really interesting. You have an interesting mix there with your rising and your moon. I'm Aquarius sun, and my rising and moon are both Leo.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of the Leo in my chart.
Yeah, my brother is Aquarius, and then one of my best friends is Scorpio. So it's always interesting to kind of see how everybody moves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so would you say that you're stubborn to any degree? And the only reason I ask that is because I know you and I are part of the fixed signs. There's 4 fixed signs. You have Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, and then Taurus. And so that's one of the biggest things I see when I'm researching fixed signs is, there's of course, good traits in there too, but one of the things that cautions people is the stubbornness, I guess, of those 4 signs.
I'm stubborn if I know I'm right. That sounds like such a little thing.
Okay.
I'm pretty accommodating, but no, I think every now and then I can get into my own, bubble, and I ain't budging from it. My friends always make fun of this. One time we did a beach trip, and I didn't know how to parallel park at the time, or I wasn't that good at it because I didn't have to do it that much. And we were trying to get into this parking spot, and it's 4 of us in the car, and everybody's yelling at me, turn the wheel. And I'm just doing my own thing, and I had everybody tuned out. And so one of my good friends always they think it's the funniest thing because they're like, if you could have seen your face in that mirror, like everybody's telling you turn the wheel and you're going the opposite way and you're not budging, and we're never getting into the spot. I was convinced I knew what I was doing. You just back and forth. It's 3 a.m. We're tired, and like, Michael, turn the wheel. And then I think what I ended up doing, I think I just found another spot because I was like, forget it. Like just stuff. So there's moments where it comes out, but I think because I work with kids for so long, it teaches you to really have to not adhere, but at least be more accommodating, or in moments where it's possible for you to adjust how you do things. Working with youth teaches you to do that, because you can't be all into your feelings and your ego with kids, right? Because they have their own way of doing things. And so different experiences kind of teach you how to maneuver, right? So yeah, I think I'm stubborn in some things. But I think if there's a stubbornness, it's a stubbornness when it comes to like creativity. So if I'm doing music or something, I can sit up till 6 a.m, knowing I'm supposed to be up at 7 to go to work, doing stuff like that kind of stubborn, where you're in your pocket.
Okay.
You don't want to stop.
Right. And I think too, that fits everything that you do, because Leo, I think, is one of the most creative zodiac signs. Almost every Leo I know is involved in the arts to some degree, and not just involved, like really thriving in it and really doing great things within the arts. Yeah. So I can totally see that. That's what's up. Okay. And a famous. So I usually do a famous person of the sign of the guest that I have on. So a famous Leo. I'm not sure if you know this or if who?
I said Whitney Houston.
Oh, Whitney. Yes, she sure is. Yes, she's Whitney one winner. Yeah, that's right. Whitney Halle Berry. Let's see, Angela Bassett is one. Jason Momoa is one too. Yeah,
and Obama in the mix.
And
I said Obama is in the mix too.
Oh yes, Obama. Yeah. And so I want to ask you this too, because I saw another post that you made about this, and I never thought about it before until I saw your post. But I was like, okay, I can kind of see that. So Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck are both Leos, and I had Leo on last season, and female Leo. She said that she doesn't think two Leos would work together in a relationship. So I guess this is a two-part question. Oh, well, you've already answered the first part. So I would take it you agree with her.
I had an ex. Yeah, I had an ex before, and Lord, I said never again. But
really?
I think what it is, I think we give a lot, but I think we also take, right? And I think we can be a lot sometimes. And so when you got two extremities together, I think it plays a role into whatever people's like Aries and Moon and everything else is. But like, the Leo I was with, never again. So yeah. Good luck.
Never again.
Great, but yeah.
Hope you're happy, just not with me.
We were too much alike. That's what it was. So yeah.
Oh, really? So it's kind of like a clash.
It was the flaws that we were too much alike in regard to the flaws that we had, and I was like, no, this ain't gonna work. But the cool thing was you saw a reflection of yourself, right? You see like, okay, this is
right.
I hope you come off this way to other people. So then it makes you start self-reflecting and try to make you like move a bit differently with how you interact with people. They were a really good person. It was just it was a lot. So yeah.
And I think you bring up a good point, because it is one thing to share commonalities with somebody when they're quote unquote good traits. But when you start to see the darker side of yourself in another person, that's hard. That can be harder to navigate. And I've definitely been in that situation before too. Not necessarily in a relationship with another Aquarius, but just period. Like being in a relationship with somebody, it's like the same ick I have about you, I also have that about myself, and it's like this isn't gonna work. Yeah, I can see that. And so the other part of the question I have for you is, I think you reposted. It was another post I saw on Twitter about Leo and Sagittarius. And whatever the post was, it was to the effect of, it's not a good match. And so when I thought about it, to be honest, I was like, well, I don't really know many Leo and Sagittarius couples, if any, that I can think of. And maybe that's the reason why. Maybe they're not a good match. I don't. But I would love to get your take on that.
To each his own. I just think, at least the Sagittarius I knew, there wasn't bad blood. For some reason, we just didn't connect. I thought they were a great person, but there was something that wasn't connecting. And because of that, I think we were somewhat annoyed with each other. And then I had a childhood friend that was also one, and they had the same birthday as my dad, and they were a bit more territorial because the fire signs we're on one all the time, but she was very like territorial. Where she ain't want you around nobody else, right? That just became unhealthy. But I will say my father was one as well, and I thought the world of him. And he moved very differently, but yeah, it might just be my experience. I haven't really seen too many strong like Sagittarius Leo connections, but I will say I think when it's good, right? If you can get that right connection, if it's good, it's great. But I feel like if it's uneventful or if it's not the best, then you just think. And I think Leos and Sagittarius were both kind of stubborn too. So once we've made up our mind, we're way out here. But no, I've met some really great Sagittarius folks, but I've also known somewhere it's like we're cordial, but it's like you can never get past surface level for some reason. I don't know if it's because we have walls built up or what, and we're kind of pressed to be in control all the time. But yeah. But now I'm paranoid because I'm like, the person follows me on Twitter. I don't know what I done tweeted. So I was like, wait a minute, what's your username?
Right. Well, the good thing is, I mean, hey, there's a ton of Sagittarians out there, so hopefully they won't take offense, whoever it is.
Oh, I hope not. No, we love them. They're great. Yeah. Love everybody. Like I don't really with the whole like the astrology signs like or zodiac signs. I don't like base any connections I build with people based on what they are. Like somebody tells me they're whatever sign they're, I'm like, okay, cool. And I use it as like a learning experience. It's not like automatically these are the signs that will never have a shot. Like it's not even anything like that. So
yeah, I agree. I'm like that too, and that's actually one of my goals of this show is that I want people to learn the quirks about each sign so that basically you're able to better communicate with the sign if you kind of know what makes them tick, but not cut anybody off or not ostracize anybody just because of traits that you've heard about from their sign. Because sometimes it might not be true. It may or may not be true.
Because I'll say for the childhood friend that was a Sag, like when it was great, it was amazing. Like we were like
really.
But in those moments where the tide would turn, that was the other downside. Because that's the thing about like a fire sign too. That fire is wonderful when it's great, but fire can be so destructive too. So when it's not good, it's not only are we beefing, we're going 10 toes down, we're pulling out all the stops, and here come all the daggers, right?
Yeah.
So that's the downside.
I can see that because Sagittarians and Leos both, I've witnessed in separate situations. In an argument, those are two signs you might not want to get into a full-blown argument with because it's going for blood.
Now I will say the best argument I ever had, or the best, it wasn't like good. It was just like we were like really going at it. It was a Capricorn, like a January Capricorn. Them
too. Yeah.
I mean, because we love each other, we're fine now. But we just had to address some stuff. We both felt certain ways about things, and man, I was caught off guard because I wasn't ready. Normally I'm not trying to sound cocky, but I normally win these arguments. But I was grasping for straws at one point. I was like, it ain't going well. January Capricorns are about their business, and they are like very they're here. They got it to get. So you better have your stuff together if you think you about to go off on one of them. So yeah, that was a very. If there was a reality show moment that should have been on camera, it should have been that argument because I was like, they said some stuff. Really? I said, wait, and you don't have to come back.
I wasn't even prepared.
I wasn't ready. So yeah, but yeah, so that's one of my good friends is like a January Capricorn. So even though they say Leo and Capricorn aren't really buddy, but we are. So
yeah, I have a close friend that's a Capricorn too, and I'll say that friendship, great people. I would say top tier. Relationship, I won't say I've avoided it, but at the same time, I've just never found myself in that space with a Capricorn. Not that I can think of, at least.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're just there's no guessing with them. I feel like, which is a good thing, is that you never have to guess where they're coming from.
Yeah, and I'd say that about Aries as well, the other fire sign. I feel like with every Aries I've known, you know exactly what you're getting. Exactly. I think Leos sometimes can't read us well. That's why they call us the Lion Leos. But yeah, Aries, you know what you're getting. Yeah. That's why I get annoyed when it's Leo season. They're like, here come them Lion Leos. I'm like, you know what?
Not lying. Well, I think Leos, the ones I've come in contact with, they're actually really honest. But the part where I do agree with to an extent about the hard to read is that Leos are usually very what's the word I'm trying to use? Theatrical. So
you can be dramatic, yeah.
Yeah, or dramatic. So like if a Leo doesn't want you to know their true colors, I feel like you're not gonna know unless you really, really know them well, or you're very intuitive or can kind of pick up with them. But yeah, a Leo, I think, Angela Bassett, case in point, I think that's, could be one of the reasons why I think, in my opinion, she's the best female actress, or she's my favorite female actress.
Yeah. Yeah, she's awesome. I love her. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Okay. So I have a few segments that I do that are standard for every episode. So I definitely want to ask you this question, or I guess it's a 5-part question. So this segment is called "I Got 5 on It." So if you had to pick 5 words that you really think embody Leo, what would those words be?
Whew. Okay. I would say popular. I mean, popular from the aspect of when a Leo's in a room, everybody knows they're there, right? They show up and lighten up a room, right? So I'd say popular in that aspect. Not popular like, oh, we're just so great, everybody wants to be around us, but just we know how to work a room. So I'll say that. I'll still say stubborn. I'll say entertaining, assertive, and loyal. Yeah, we put. I think I'll speak for myself. I know I put up with a lot of nonsense sometimes for people, and it's because I always, even when people may not have been the best toward me, I remember how things were when they were good to me, or if there's history or years. You kind of for some reason you'll. It's hard for me to cut people off. I'll say that. Right. I'm not the best at getting rid of people. So if you've been cut out of my life, you had to be a really, really terrible person. Right. Because even people who've done a lot of shady things, I still constantly give people like chances, or it's not even about chances, but I think it's the idea of valuing what was there. So even when something goes wrong or something doesn't go super well, the appreciation for how I see them in their good light often may be kind of a character flaw on my end, but it's something where I constantly still give people grace all the time, right? Well, not all the time. I'm getting older, so stuff kind of shifts, but
right.
we it's hard for us to let people go. I hold on to everything. Like I still at my mama's house, I got all my homework from like 6th grade onward. It's still at my mom's house.
Really?
So different. Yeah, I'm a big like historian kind of person. I don't know if that's because I moved around a lot as a child, and so it's the idea of wanting something stable, so you hold on to everything. But if you go to my mama's house, it's like all kind of assignments from 6th grade and middle school. I still have all my college books. Like I hold on to everything. Like I'm not like a hoarder, but everything has value to me. Every concert I've ever been to, I still have the ticket stub. Even though times have changed, we're now like digital, so it's not the same. But yeah, it's hard for me to let stuff go.
I kind of miss the tangible tickets too, things like that. Wow, that's cool. As we were talking, that was one of the things that was sitting in the back of my head thinking about Leos, is that they are very loyal. And it's one of the things I really love about Leos, because as fiery as they are, Leos, and I don't think Leos get enough credit for this, they're one of the most forgiving signs, I feel. But once that forgiveness runs out, I mean, it's a wrap. It's
I would have said I should have added sensitive in there too. We're sensitive. We be playing it off like we good, but we don't be good.
Really?
I think we're well, at least for me. Yeah, I can put on a good face, right? Feelings be hurt, but you would never know, right? And it's like, don't worry though, I got something for you because I'm gonna find a way around it. You gonna feel how I felt, but just yeah. So I've been good at putting on face sometimes too.
Okay.
I think of Angela Bassett when she didn't win that Oscar for Wakanda Forever. Her sitting there, and I was like, "Oh, I know that cut her so bad," but she wasn't about to show it too much. You know, she'd sit there and sit on face, but I know it was killing her inside. I know she was cussing in the car ride home, but
yeah, that was not a good night for Courtney B. Vance. I'm sure because he probably heard all.
Yeah, put the camera down. Like, okay, change my mind.
Right. So, yeah. Exactly. Okay. So yeah, sensitive. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, because I haven't experienced that side a lot with Leo, but again, I think it goes back to what you said, that face that a Leo can put on where you're not going to know that they feel that way a lot of times.
And I think it comes from just kind of being a strategic kind of person too. I think that's what that is. Sometimes we can be a little strategic, and it goes back to that idea of being stubborn. I think Leos, we love the idea of everything always being okay. We love the idea of everything is all right with us. You're never going to see us out of our element. So, you know, I look at like a Whitney Houston. No matter what was happening, Whitney was going to be the loudest one in the room, smiling, laughing, joking. Doesn't matter what's happening behind the scenes. Everything is always good with her, no matter what, no matter how bad her day was. If she was doing a live show and she had a cold that day, she was still going to give you 10% or 100% of whatever she could give you. And you would never know anything was wrong. Like, yeah, I feel like that's kind of that approach. So even I know they've been whacking Jennifer Lopez all week, but even with like a J-Lo and how she's been moving, the idea of having an album that doesn't do as well and movies that have been getting trashed, and I think she just canceled the tour and everything. J-Lo is not about to be out here on the street crying nowhere. She gonna jump into whatever.
You never know.
Right? Even if she's crying behind the scenes, y'all not gonna know because she's
That's true. And and really, this is just my personal opinion. So her album, the latest one, I can't say I'm crazy about it, but I will say and I'm sure you probably saw it, the visual album that she did for Amazon. Not because she did that one and then like a separate documentary, I think like a behind the scenes. That visual album, that is probably, and I'm really trying to go through my mental Rolodex and make sure I'm not speaking out of turn here, but production-wise, that is probably the best visual album I've ever seen. I mean, so I kind of hate. Yeah.
Like I will say I do personally feel that some of the anti J-Lo stuff is a little performative. Everybody just jumped on the wave. I get why people give her the smoke they give her, but I'm like, all right, some of y'all do it a lot now. But no, I think the album was okay. I didn't think it was super great, but I was like, all right, it was cool. And the other thing, I saw her do an interview where she was talking about like, it's not like people are rushing to get the next J-Lo album. So she's aware of how people kind of see her to an extent. But no, I always felt that if it's a performance, no matter what award show, if they say she's on the bill, I will watch hers because I know I'm going to get a good show, no matter what it is. Even if people say she's not the strongest vocalist or she's had things she's done in the past that may not rub people well, I know when she gets on the stage, she's going to give 110% and then some, right? And even at the age that she's at, it's of all the peers of her age group, if it was, especially the ones that dance and everything, if it was something like, oh, they need to flip her upside down and have her try to do a head spin, she would be the one to try to do it. So,
and probably kill it.
Yeah. So she's all right with me. I feel bad for the lady a little bit, but
I do too. I agree. Okay, and speaking of people and their opinions, I do have another question for you. So, with you being, and this is kind of transitioning a little bit into the next segment about your many projects that you have. So this segment is called High Low. And so I'm curious, this is just a hypothetical, but I'm sure maybe you've had this question come up or maybe it's comment come up before. But hypothetically, if someone came to you and said, and let's say maybe they even commented this publicly on Twitter, on YouTube, whatever, hey, I think you're wearing too many hats. You're doing too much. You need to focus on one thing instead of, being in, a musician, a YouTuber, a podcast host, comedian, all these things. Basically, you just need to pick a lane. So my question to you is, what is the Leo high road response to that? And then what do you think the Leo low road response to that would be?
Ooh, because I've been told this a few times.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the high road approach is I always just kind of expound on the idea that I'm just very intrigued by a lot of things. So I want to, by the time I go on to glory, whenever that is, I want to feel that I was able to do everything I ever wanted to do, right? And so that's why I'm always jumping into different things, because my attention span kind of jumps into different pockets. On Monday, it might be music. On Tuesday, it's the podcast. Wednesday, I'm going off about something politically. And by Thursday, I'm at a karaoke bar. And Friday, I'm doing a comedy show. So like for me, things that connect with people are what I enjoy doing. Like everything that I'm really tied to, all of it has some kind of correlation with connecting with people, which is why I think I like doing that. So that's kind of the high response. Like, oh, well, I'm just feeling different voids that are there. The low response, especially if it's from somebody who I don't feel measures up respectfully to what it is I'm already doing, it's kind of like, why are you killing my joy? Because you ain't doing nothing either. You going to work every day miserable. At least while I go to my job, I have something to look forward to when I get home. You miserable all day.
Right.
Respectfully, from a place of love. So it's kind of like, and at this point, everything's worked in my favor. So it's like, I got a good formula here. So why would I mess that up? And so I try really hard to not be that person that comes off like big-headed or like condescending to others. But I feel like the arts and all that is kind of what keeps me sane, right? It keeps me just excited. Like, and a lot of the stuff I just do because I enjoy it. So like doing music, I've never had like an aspiration to like go get a major record deal and be at the Grammys. I mean, if it comes, sure, but I just make music because I like it. I got all these melodies in my head. I need to do something with it. So hey, put it on a track, right? And a lot of the stuff that I do is all somewhat connected anyway. So it's not even like, I can see if it was like I'm trying to be a brain surgeon and trying to do music and then at the same time be an astronaut, that would make more sense. But everything that I do is kind of connected. They're kind of in the same family. So I don't think it's too far off the Richter.
Yeah. I agree. And I think it's totally commendable. I love it. I've never subscribed to that idea of picking one thing and sticking to that, because like you said, and I feel the same way, whenever life expires, I want to be that person that, kind of dabbled in many different things and explored many things, and not leaving with regret. Oh, I should have done this. So I wanted to do this, but I was afraid, or, what would people say? Or maybe they say I'm doing too much or whatever. So I think that's really cool. And
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. What were you going to say?
Okay. Sorry. I apologize. But no, and I think, because even with the YouTube channel, I kind of cover a bunch of different things. And I think that's worked in my favor, because there's some people who they may start a platform and they specialize specifically in one thing. But then life happens, right? You get older, you evolve, you start seeing things differently, and then you want to jump into something else. And because you built an entire audience only on one thing, and now you're jumping somewhere else, the audience is not receptive to it, or they don't want it. So you sometimes have people who specifically specialize in celebrity pop culture. That's their bridge. Because to me, that's the fastest way to grow on social media. Celebrity culture, people love it. We all are indulged, right? But then sometimes you might go from that, and now all of a sudden, because of everything happening in the world, you want to start talking more serious things. But if you've only been in the celebrity gossip realm, it's really hard to jump into that, because folks are like, we don't want to hear that. We want to hear what you got to say about whoever's diss track came out yesterday. I think, at least in my experience, because I jumped into so much, it's given me this cool lane that's very flexible, where I can kind of jump into whatever. And there's an audience for all of it. So I have an audience specifically that just only wants to hear the podcast because they want to laugh. There's some people who are only there for my music documentary related stuff. They only want that. There's some who show up for the political stuff. There's some who show up for the Black people stuff. Some show up for the current world events. Some just want award show reviews. But like the point that I'm making is, because I've given a little bit of everything, it allows me to be in a space where I can keep jumping into new endeavors and I don't lose the audience, because they're like, eventually, I feel like your goal is you want your audience to just be a fan of you as a person and what it is you exude versus what you serve or what you do, because the thing that you do may be outdated and people move on to the next eventually, right? So I think the idea of people just liking you as a brand is a bit more secure as far as like stability and long-term trajectories, because I've kind of been doing this for a good minute at this point. I think that's what you want. You want people that are, because even when I did the movie, right, you know, I had to really humble down, go on my platform and say, hey, y'all, we doing this movie and this ain't in my budget. So if y'all want to donate a little something, it would be great. And it killed me to do that. I have never gone on the platform and asked for anything because I got a whole job too. So, but because of that, you know, people were like, oh my God, that's amazing. We'd love to see that kind of. And I think that comes from, again, support. Playing in a bunch of different spaces and just, you know, testing the waters. So yeah, I'm appreciative of that.
I totally agree with you. And one of the things that I really respect about your channel was after I subscribed, and I think the Tony Braxton one was the last music one I saw before. Yeah. And so when I saw the political ones pop up, I didn't even flinch. And the reason why is, and I don't really consider, now I know like the policies, and I know about politics, but as far as like jumping into that conversation, like on a podcast level, I wouldn't say that's really my pocket. But I watched the videos, and what was interesting was, and I figured this was going to happen before I had even clicked on it, the level of detail that you brought to the music videos. I was like, oh, he's going to bring this same thing to the political videos, and, you know, more than likely do it in a way that's digestible and in a way where it's like, okay, well, yeah, I actually want to watch this and see this through to the end. And that was exactly what happened. And so to your point, I feel like it's more important to get people to buy into you versus whatever you're doing at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Thanks. I appreciate it.
I totally. Oh yeah. Yeah. Of course. You're welcome. I saw a clip where you said, and I thought this was really profound. You said that you liken yourself to Sade in the sense that you don't make content until you feel like you have something to say. And I thought that was so on point because, you know, when you look at her catalog, people like her, even like a D'Angelo, I don't think you can say any of their albums are flops, and not necessarily because of the commercial appeal. Of course, you know, they've been successful, but they take so much time and they've lived so much life in between each of those albums that it's almost like it can't help but be good because you're not forcing yourself to, oh, what am I going to post today? What am I going to put out?
Right. Yeah. And that's just the way I look at it. Because, you know, think of like, even if you have a favorite artist, let's say they go on tour every year. If they tour every year and come to your city every year, no matter how much you love them, at some point, you're not as excited anymore because you kind of know what you're going to get, right? At some point, versus they only tour when they have a big project coming out and the tour is based around the project or something. You're intrigued about what it is they're going to do. That's kind of the same approach I have with like a YouTube. Like, and this is no disrespect to anybody who does like, you know, they might have, I don't know, turn up Mondays and check-in Tuesdays and let's chill Wednesdays. It's like, great, love it, beautiful. But eventually, if you don't evolve or give something that is different, where it kind of connects with the emotional appeals of your audience or just the intriguing appeals of your audience, then eventually people move on to the next. So at least for my channel, I only make a video if I got something I want to say. There's no, which I feel bad for sometimes because people sometimes always say, I want more. But If I give too much, then you oversaturate it. And then at some point, nobody wants to hear what you got to say because they see you every time they log on to the app, your face is there.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think overexposure can be a great thing for instant success and climbing really quickly, but you have to be really careful over time because people always want something new anyway. No matter, even when you have something good, people eventually still move on if they've had too much of it because they want something different. Mm-hmm. So that's been my approach with especially YouTube, right? You know, I just only talk when I have something to say. I'm not just gonna make a video to make a video. So right. You know, sometimes there's a lot going on, so you see a lot more of me, and then sometimes there's not a whole lot going on, so you might only get 1 or 2 videos out of the month versus 6 or 7.
Right.
But yeah, I don't want to just put stuff out to put stuff out because then that's a conversation of quality. Are you really putting effort behind what you're doing, or are you going with the motions because hey, it's monetized and it's going to be a check coming in the mail? And I think audiences can read through that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. I agree. Yeah, they know when you're just doing it because it's just checking the box versus it's really what you're passionate about.
Yeah, definitely.
And so what would you say to somebody who is more of a beginner and it doesn't have to necessarily be YouTube, but just creation in general. And I know you, like you said, you've been doing this for a long time. And I don't know if you had this moment. I know I've had it before with several different things where, you know, maybe you are on a consistent schedule and you're not seeing the growth that you want to see. Or on the flip side, like you just said, maybe you're not on a consistent schedule, but you're always posting when you really feel it or when you're really passionate about the topic. You still might not be seeing the type of growth that you want to see. Like, what advice would you give someone who's maybe in either of those spaces?
Yeah, I think it's so hard for newer people coming in, and I feel bad. And some of that, in my opinion, has to do with like TikTok. And it's not against TikTok, but because TikTok is such a cool machine where you can really grow really, really fast. TikTok to me has created a space where you have to put out more frequently, like more content frequently in order to stay afloat. And it's kind of trying to shift over to YouTube as well. And so I think that kind of sets some people up. But I will say to your question, for me, I think I caught on when I was comfortable just being myself and not trying to emulate something else I saw. So I never intended on even having a YouTube channel for anything. I initially had a YouTube channel because I used to be a choreographer. And while I was at Howard, the dance teams that I worked with were still in Seattle Metro, which is where I was from. And I couldn't afford to fly back and forth weekly because that's like $500-$600 every week. And I was a college student. I didn't have it. I was living off beans and noodles. And so I started uploading like my lectures and my classes on YouTube with an unlisted link, meaning, you know, they could only see it if they had the link. And so that's how I ended up creating the channel. So sometimes people are like, it says your channel's been here since 2005 and this is how many subscribers you only got. I'm like, I didn't start like video blogging until like 2011, I think, or 2010. But anyway, so that's where the channel initially started. And then I started doing stand-up comedy. And I would upload my shows to YouTube. And that was specifically so I could kind of send those out to, you know, other comedy venues and stuff. Because the comedy world is very cutthroat and very tribal and territorial. So, you know, you got to know people and, you know, they want you to work the open mic market before you start getting features and everything. So that's what that was there for. Then one day, it was just this lady, Bethany Storrell, Vancouver, Washington, came to the police and said this black woman threw acid on her face, right? Burned her face. And turned out it wasn't a black woman that did it. First of all, Vancouver, Washington got about 2 black people, right? It's probably more black dogs.
It's not that many.
But it turned out she did it to herself. She lied. So it just triggered me. I made this video about it. And then it kind of picked up. And then right after that was Tyler Clementi from Rutgers, where, you know, he was a closeted man who the roommate was all in the mix. And I guess the roommate set up a camera, you know, trying to catch him in the act. And then, you know, we spread it around campus and Tyler had went and jumped off the bridge. And I just thought that was such a horrible thing. I was like, you know what? People are just terrible. So I started just kind of having videos about my things that triggered me. But I was also looking at what the bigger channels were doing. And I kind of was trying to copy some of them. So I really went 10 toes down in like celebrity culture. But it didn't come off naturally. So it wasn't really connecting. Because I was literally just emulating what I saw the other people doing. And it wasn't it. And what I learned was over time, just being your authentic self. And I know that sounds very cliche because that's what everybody says, but it really does make a difference when you're just really doing what you do best, right? Because I remember at one point I was trying to do love and hip hop reviews. And I'm like, you don't even watch this show. Be for real. And so, yeah. But advice I would say is consistency. I think when you're first starting to build your brand is everything.
Okay.
I'm in a space where I don't have to do something every week because now I have an audience. But to get that audience, because again, like what I was saying with like a TikTok, you have to kind of be a bit more consistent in the beginning, but you have to give something that's different each and every time. You have to give something that always comes off like there's intent behind it, right? It can't just come off as easy run of the mill. And I think the idea is trying to do something that hasn't already been done. And sadly, that's challenging because at this point, TikTok, YouTube, all of the platforms, we've all done the same thing. So it becomes, well, what can you do that makes you stand out from somebody else? So when I started like the So What Happens series, there weren't really a lot of videos talking about like, okay, different projects that come out. Well, really what it was, I got tired of seeing people on Twitter dismiss different projects because they didn't sell well and be like, oh, it was because that album sucked. I'm like, no, I don't think that's the reason why. And then you like, and then again, as somebody who's a big fan of different people, you remember being around when these projects weren't doing well. And you're like, actually, hold on. I don't like the narrative that's out there. So that's kind of what that inspired that. And I think the goal is you want to put out content you were inspired to do, right? And eventually people kind of see the genuine approach. That's what pulls people in. That's what, because people, I think at this point, people who have a favorite TikToker or YouTuber or whatever, it's somebody that they feel they have a connection with, or somebody that they feel, you know, if you knew them in person, y'all could go to a happy hour and talk for hours. That's what people want to feel. In this chaotic world we live in with these crazy politics and everything's expensive and stuff, people want escapism. So if they're going to escape to your content, give them something good. I've rambled, so I don't even know where I was going with this, but yeah, I think the idea.
No, I love it.
Okay, yeah, I guess sometimes I go off the deep end and keep going, but no, I think you just the biggest thing is being your authentic self. Once I learned to just really like be comfortable in my own skin and not like worry about what people are gonna say or critique, or because I was very self-conscious about my speaking voice because I was like, I don't have the coolest voice. Like it's depending on, especially when I was younger, my voice was a little bit higher, so it was like, you know, I used to be really self-conscious about that. So I remember I used to do videos and try to talk in a deeper pocket to make it seem like I was about my business. It just comes off. It don't sound right? So authentic self, and the people who would be a part of your tribe eventually find you. And I think you have to also be comfortable with not being the biggest platform. Like I'm totally fine having the audience I have, right? Because I think I have an audience that's loyal and supportive versus, hey, I'll be happy to have 10 million people follow me, but 10 million people are not going to be 10 million people you want to interact with. Those are people who, if you have 10 million people following you, yeah, people love you, but you also have people that are hate watching. You have people who will jump ship as soon as something else comes up or something comes down the pipeline. You have people that are, you know, there's no actual connection to you. They just want the content of whatever it is you're doing. And so if you decide to jump into a new endeavor, they're not riding that way. They want whatever you are already doing. So it's a bunch of different approaches. I just say do what works best for you. But yeah, I think integrity behind what you're doing, intent, and just being your authentic self, because fabrications unfold. So you might as well do you.
Yes. I love that. And to your point, I feel like you definitely nailed that with your channel, because taking it back to the first video I saw on your channel, the TLC one, I've seen a lot of commentary about them, but I had never, and actually, I want to say at that point when I saw it, and even since then, I don't think I've ever seen a commentary that compared those two albums. The commentary that usually you see is Crazy Sexy Cool versus Fan Mail, because those are the two biggest albums. And you kind of covered, I feel like you covered that a little bit, like you did talk about that too. But I love that the focus was more so on 3D, because I felt personally it was a solid album, and I feel like had Left Eye still been alive. It's the same.
It was really, I just didn't like that album gets dismissed a lot as not good, and I personally think it was one of the better albums that come out of 2002. And I get it. It's not TLC because there's a member that's not there, but sonically, I feel like there were some gems on the album. But I think a lot of times people, especially because now we're coming into this space where like generationally, you have I'm not even gonna say Gen Z, because Gen Z at this point is of age to remember certain things. But so even going back to J-Lo, right? This whole all of a sudden everybody hates her again. My theory is the next generation has gotten wind of what happened way back when, and they're reacting to it. And here we go, right? So these conversations about J-Lo that we had 10 years ago are resurfacing with a new audience, right? And so I think that's kind of the same thing with like music conversations. So when I do like a conversation on Usher's Here I Stand or like a Demita Joe or something, these are all decent albums, but it's just the climate that was taking place at the time. So that's really what the goal is with that series. Just if we're going to talk about why it didn't do well, the music is one piece of the conversation, but we have to talk about the industry, where it was at, what was happening with the business, who left the label, all of that kind of stuff. And I don't think people sometimes like to jump that far. This is no diss to any other person that does similar content, because I'm like, I do notice there's a whole lot of other people who now have similar ideas, but like, I just feel like you want to paint the full picture. And I really love the idea of kind of being like a historian and creating those outlets that kind of give that, because I think when we were kids we were fortunate because we had like a Behind the Music or an Ultrasound or Before They Were Rock Stars or Driven or all these different shows that used to come on or Intimate Portrait, right? And none of that exists anymore. And so at this point the narrative behind artists, especially artists that are no longer really commercially in the mainstream right now, the narrative start to change. And working with kids, and this is how I knew it was like, okay, we're living in two different worlds. I remember showing like one of my kids like a Prince music video or something. They're like, "Ooh, Mr. Michael, this only has like 2 million views," and I'm like, "But this, okay, YouTube didn't come out until 2005, so like, but for them it's like, well, because we like Nicki Minaj, and Nicki Minaj has like 1 billion views on a certain video. But I'm like, it's a different time period. So this Prince video of controversy is only going to have so many views because, well, that wasn't the video I showed them, but these videos, I just thought about what that video looks like. Maybe I showed Raspberry Beret or something, but it's a different era because YouTube didn't come out till 2005. So no, it's not going to have 1 billion views because people were actually watching it on the TV when it aired versus now. So like all that kind of stuff I think matters. So I just try to make sure the context is right and stuff.
I agree. And then too, in today's time, even when you look at record sales, and this is no dig, and I'm just saying her because I feel like she's fully in the digital era. No dig at all to Taylor Swift. But to me, it's not as impressive hearing her album sold 4 or 5 million in today's time versus in the 90s when you had, you had TLC, Pearl Jam, REM. Yeah, right. Yeah. They're paying people to physically go into the stores.
Yeah, and because for me, it's nothing against Taylor, but I think in the streaming era, and somebody got mad one time when I said this, because I personally think if Billboard wants to highlight the accomplishments of all the artists, I think there has to be more delineation between when these accomplishments were made. Like there should be a cutoff and say, these are all the records that existed during the physical era where people had to go to the stores. These are the records that existed during the physical and digital era where people still bought CDs, but iTunes was introduced. These are the records of the people who were there for the physical, digital, and the early beginning of streaming, like that record. These are the people who had specifically digital and streaming because people aren't buying CDs anymore. This is specifically streaming. And unfortunately, all of it is under one umbrella. And so you're watching all these records get eclipsed weekly because, again, nothing against streaming, but it's just the stroke of a phone or a mouse click on a computer.
Yeah.
So, and you can't equate that to somebody physically going in, especially way back when, if you bought a double disc and it was $26.99. Nobody in their right mind is spending that kind of money on music right now, right? People will stand in line for Jordans all day, but they will not spend $15 on a CD. It's not a thing anymore. It's just a different era. So yeah, there's definitely like a lost element of the conversation. And so when I see people say like, oh, this person broke so-and-so's record, I'm like, and this is also the era of streaming farms. You can pay and get some company that has a room with 1,000 or 1,000 phones that stream your song all day. It's just a weird time. I think Taylor's doing great by the standards of what's happening in 2024. And, she's been on this tour and all that. Beautiful. We love to see it. but it's a different era, right? Things are just very different.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. And this has been awesome. Okay, so before we close out, I do have the final segment, and this is the dead in the water game that I was telling you about. So for those of you who maybe this is your first time watching this show, now I try to tailor these questions to each of the guests so that nobody gets a repeat question. But it's basically a this or that theme. So I'll ask you two things.
I know it's about to be messy because you even got music playing. Lord. Okay, Lord. Let me see what I'm about to piss off on here. All right.
I'll say something like chicken or fish, and then instead of telling me which one you like the best, you'll tell me the one you throw back and forth.
That is so cold. Oh. Okay.
And it's okay if your answer is neither. I've had that a couple times where people say, "Hey, I just can't part with either one of these." So.
There's no fun. Let's see if I can do this without saying it.
All right. Okay. All right. So first one, Janet Jackson, Control or Rhythm Nation. Which album would you get rid of?
Oh God. Okay, we're throwing daggers on day one. I'm only going to say Control. All right, I'm only going to say Control because Control to me has 2 skips and Rhythm Nation has 1. He doesn't even know I'm alive.
You know what?
I skip on Control. Rhythm Nation, I skip Living in the World They Didn't Make. And that was hard. So many fans don't fight them. Sorry.
You know what? I can't fault you at all for that because my sentiments are pretty much almost 100% what you just said. So I feel like between those 2 albums, Rhythm Nation is just one that I can just listen to with less skips. Yeah, I agree. Okay. All right. So next one.
Using violence. All right.
Starring role when it comes to acting or theater or behind the scenes. Which one would you get rid of?
After executive producing a movie, behind the scenes. Oh God. It's a lot. The starring role, that's the fun part. You have to learn the lines and do whatever, but you don't have to be there for the logistics and put out fires and trying to come up with last minute funds and permits. And yeah, starring role sounds like a great time. So I would get behind the scenes, even though I feel like the money's behind the scenes.
Well, true. But yeah, I can imagine it sounds like it's much more work behind the scenes. Okay. All right. So when it comes to planning, schedule or disorganized, which one would you get rid of?
If it's a vacation, I don't want to be scheduled. Let's just live in the moment.
Okay.
Based on what I do, though, I need to be scheduled because it's easy for me to enjoy doing one aspect of something I do so much that I totally am oblivious to what needs to be done. Yeah, me personally, like professionally, I need to be scheduled. The idea of like living life, I'm in a space where it's disorganized. Live in the moment, right? You only live once. Why are we so uptight and gotta run by a schedule? Don't invite me on a vacation and you have an itinerary. I'm not getting up to it anyway. So.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. So I'm really curious on this one. This was another post that I saw that you made. So I'm curious to see which one. What'll be your answer? Elon Musk or Donald Trump? Which?
Okay, so
which one are you?
Elon gotta go. At this point, Father Time is about to call Trump home anyway. But Elon to me is the epitome of a privileged, wealthy white man who's never had to deal with anything but thinks they know the answer to everything and what people deserve and what people need. And to watch what he has done to Twitter and watch, like, oh God, if there's somebody I could fight, like, it's really on site with him if I ever see him on the street, to be honest. I don't mind taking that charge. I need to punch him in the face. He has
You do it.
I'm surprised nobody has done it yet. Trump is gonna be Trump. Trump to me represents what's already been around. He ain't nobody I'm crazy over, but he's the bottom tier of the bottom tier. But Elon presents himself as a place of intellect, and he's not. So he can go.
Okay. Hey,
and he's younger.
In the water you go, Elon.
Ugh.
Oh wait, what was the last part you said?
I was saying because he's younger, we got to deal with him for 50 more years. Trump is almost out the door.
Oh, right. Right. Okay. All right. And so the last one is boneless wings or bone-in wings. Which one would you throw away?
I'm sorry, boneless don't be hitting like that. It's overrated. That's just chicken nuggets. So I want the bone.
Really?
Let me get the bone.
So you want the boneless, the bone-in?
I want the
okay.
Bone-in stays. Yes.
Okay. Hey, bone-in stays. All right.
Yeah, I'm
all
just
right. Cool.
Wow, wings. Bone-in tastes way better than the boneless. Those are nuggets.
Oh, really? And see, I like the. See, I guess I'm kind of still stuck in my 12-year-old mind, because this is my thing with the bone-in wings. If I'm biting down on a wing, and if I see one of those veins, or if I'm biting down on some cartilage, it's a wrap. It's just throw the whole wing away. Like
where are you from?
I'm originally from Houston.
Where's your family rooted? Are you rooted in Houston?
Well, Houston and Louisiana.
Okay.
I know. It probably seems
I never heard that.
I just said that. Right.
I thought you were about to say you from San Francisco, LA. I'm like, of course.
Oh,
no. No, that's not a diss to y'all over there either, because all y'all got cousins on the East Coast and in the South anyway. But yeah, okay. Right. No, I like boneless, but I just prefer. I don't know. Something about the bone being in there makes it work. But I'm not gonna lie. If I cook, I prefer to cook with boneless, thighs and stuff versus bone in. So.
Oh, okay. I got you. That's what's up. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you again so much for joining me today, Calvin. I really, really appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to leave with the listeners and the viewers before we go?
I don't know. Not really, but I just appreciate everybody who supports me, and I'm excited about some of the things that are dropping in 2024. I feel like I've been working my behind off for 2 years with no break, so I'm happy that finally things are tangibly here almost, right? So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
Just sharing new things, and whatever our next journey is. So I appreciate that,
right.
Everybody, of course. And then just thanks for having me, by the way, too. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, no doubt. Of course. Yes. All right. Well, again, thank you for joining today. Again, if y'all have not already done so, make sure you follow Calvin on these platforms. So again, that is Instagram and X,
Twitter.
Yeah, I was about to say. I should have just put Twitter. Right.
It's Twitter in my house. I ain't calling it.
Yes, it's Twitter. Yeah, exactly.
Become mess up something we already have.
Instagram and Twitter. Right. And give me a beat. And so those who are listening and not watching, the spelling of that is GIMMIEABEAT. And then on Facebook, it's Calvin Michaels. So make sure you go out and follow him. And thanks again, Calvin, for joining me today. And we'll see you all next week, next Thursday. Peace.
See you guys.
All right.